The scariest disappearances do not always happen in dark alleys, abandoned roads, or places people already fear. Sometimes they happen in broad daylight. Sometimes they happen on sunny holiday beaches, surrounded by music, boats, friends, strangers, laughter, and celebration. And that is what makes the case of 18-year-old Nolan Xavier Wells so disturbing. On July 4th, 2026, Nolan went to Horn Island off the Mississippi Gulf Coast for what should have been a normal 4th of July outing. He was young, he was athletic, he had a future, he was with people he knew. But by the end of that holiday weekend, his family was searching for him, his community was begging for answers, and his name was spreading across social media for all the wrong reasons. Nolan Xavier Wells, known affectionately by loved ones as No-No, was not just a missing person headline. He was someone's son, someone's teammate, someone's friend, and someone's child who still had plans. He had recently graduated from Ocean Springs High School and was attending Southwest Mississippi Community College, where he played football as a wide receiver. By all accounts, Nolan was respectful, positive, and full of life. His mother described him as someone who uplifted others, and people who knew him remembered his smile, his personality, and his love for football. He was only 18 years old, with his 19th birthday still ahead of him. On Saturday, July 4th, Nolan traveled by boat with a group of friends to Horn Island, a barrier island about 10 miles off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Horn Island is beautiful, but it is also remote. It is the kind of place where people go to swim, party, boat, and enjoy the water, but it is not like being at a city beach where help is right around the corner. Once you are separated from your group, your phone, or your ride, things can become serious very quickly. Nolan was last reported seen around 3 p.m. on the northwest end of the island, wearing blue swim trunks, sunglasses, and no shirt. What happened after that is where the questions begin. According to reports, there was confusion about whether Nolan had a ride back to the mainland. Some people believed he had left with someone else. Others may have assumed he was still with the original group. At some point, Nolan became separated from his phone, which made it even harder for his family and authorities to track him or reach him. And that detail alone has caused people to ask questions, because when a young person disappears from a holiday gathering, one of the first things everyone wants to know is who last saw him, who thought he was leaving, with who, and why did nobody realize sooner that he was not safe. That night, Nolan did not come home. His mother, Christine Wansley, became increasingly worried and reported him missing. She also began pleading publicly for help, asking anyone who had photos, videos, or information from Horn Island to come forward. She asked people to pray that her son would be found alive, safe, and unharmed. That plea hit people hard because it sounded like a mother trying to stay hopeful while already feeling in her spirit that something was deeply wrong. A massive search began. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department, the U.S. Coast Guard, the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, Gulf Islands National Seashore, the United Cajun Navy, and volunteers became involved. Searchers used boats, planes, drones, and ground teams. A command post was set up at the Lake Mars boat launch in Ocean Springs. Crews searched the island and the surrounding waters. But Horn Island is not a simple place to search. There are beaches, brush, water, currents, and isolated areas. The longer the search continued, the more fear grew. Then, on Monday morning, July 6, 2026, came the devastating discovery. A National Park Service ranger found a body in the water just offshore near the northwest end of Horn Island, in the same general area where Nolan had last been seen. Authorities said the body matched Nolan's description, though official confirmation through the medical examiner was still pending at the time of reporting. Nolan's mother later confirmed the heartbreaking loss publicly, asking for privacy as the family grieved. In one moment, the search for a missing teenager became a death investigation. The cause of death has not been officially released. That is important. Right now, there are many conversations online, but facts matter. Authorities have not publicly confirmed exactly how Nolan died. They have not released a final autopsy result. They have not announced a confirmed motive. They have not named suspects. They have said the investigation is active. And when a case is this fresh, the difference between a fact, a theory, a rumor, and a social media assumption matters. But the reason this case has become so controversial is because people are looking at the circumstances and asking uncomfortable questions. Nolan was a young black man. Photos circulating online showed him with white friends on the boat. After he was found dead, social media exploded with conversations about race, friendship, trust, and whether a Black young man can ever truly be safe when he is the only Black person in certain spaces. Some people immediately questioned the friends. Others warned against jumping to conclusions before evidence is released, and that is where the divide began. In the Black community, this case touched a nerve because it fits into a fear many families already carry. A mother sends her son out with friends and he does not come back. Everyone else returns, but he does not. Then the explanation becomes confusion, assumptions, and missing details. For many Black families, that is not just a tragic accident story, that is a nightmare wrapped in history. It brings up old fears about being outnumbered, being overlooked, being dismissed, and being told not to ask too many questions when something feels off. In parts of the white community, some people pushed back, saying it is unfair to imply race or wrongdoing without evidence. They argued that Horn Island can be dangerous, that water accidents happen, that currents can be unpredictable, and that young people partying or boating can become separated without anyone intending harm. And that is also part of the controversy, because one side is saying, do not accuse people without proof, while the other side is saying, do not tell us to ignore patterns that have historically gotten Black people killed or forgotten. Both things can be true at once. It is wrong to accuse specific people of murder without evidence, but it is also not wrong for Nolan's family and the public to demand a complete, transparent investigation. Asking questions is not the same thing as making a conviction. Wanting to know who saw Nolan last, who he was with, what time everyone left, who had his phone, whether there was an argument, whether anyone recorded anything, whether alcohol was involved, whether he entered the water, whether he was injured before entering the water, and whether anyone failed to report something important. Those are fair questions. The family has now retained civil rights attorney Ben Crump, which shows they want independent pressure, transparency, and answers. Ben Crump's involvement does not automatically mean the case is criminal. It means the family does not want this to be quietly closed without every possible detail examined. In cases like this, families often hire an attorney because they want access, accountability, communication, and public attention. They want to know that their child's death is not being reduced to a simple explanation before the evidence is complete. Another part of the controversy involves videos and possible footage from that day. Authorities have asked anyone who was on Horn Island, anyone who saw Nolan, anyone who recorded videos, or anyone who noticed unusual activity to come forward. That matters because July 4th gatherings usually have people filming everything. Boats, drinks, dancing, beach clips, arguments, selfies, and background moments nobody thinks are important until later. A random 10-second clip from someone's phone could help establish Nolan's last known movements. It could confirm who he was near. It could show whether he was alone, calm, upset, walking, swimming, arguing, or trying to find a ride. That is why this case should not be treated like gossip. This is not just people online being messy. There is a real family behind this. There is a mother grieving her son. There are friends and classmates in shock. There are teammates who expected to see him back on the field. And there is a community trying to understand how a young man could go to an island with friends in the middle of the day and end up dead while everyone else made it home. The timeline is one of the biggest pieces investigators will need to lock down. Nolan was last seen around 3 p.m. The family later became alarmed when he did not return home. The search began. His phone was recovered and returned to the family. His body was found Monday morning. But the most important window is the time between when he was last seen and when people realized he was missing. Who spoke to him during that window? Was he trying to leave? Did he say he had another ride? Did someone offer him one? Did he go into the water? Was he alone? Did something happen on land before he ended up in the water? Those answers matter. There is also the question of responsibility among friends. Legally, we do not know what obligations anyone had, but morally, people are asking, when you go somewhere remote with a group, do you leave without making sure everyone is accounted for? If one person is missing, do you assume they found another ride, or do you stop and verify? And when the missing person is a young Black man in a mostly white group, does that change how the public interprets the situation? These are uncomfortable questions, but this case has forced people to say them out loud. At the same time, it is important to be careful. Social media can help families get attention, but it can also spread false claims fast. A viral post can make people believe something is confirmed when it is not. A clip can be taken out of context. A rumor can become a fact overnight. And once names are attached to accusations, lives can be damaged even if the claim turns out wrong. So the responsible way to cover this case is to say there are serious questions, there are public concerns, there are racial tensions in the conversation, but the official cause and manner of death have not yet been released. What we do know is that Nolan Wells deserved to make it home. He deserved a full life. He deserved to return to school, play football, celebrate birthdays, make mistakes, grow up, and become whoever he was meant to become. Instead, his family is planning to mourn him. And that is why people are so emotional about this case. It is not just because he disappeared. It is because he disappeared in a place where someone should have noticed. He disappeared during a celebration. He disappeared while surrounded by people. And he was found in the same general area where he was last seen. As this investigation continues, the most important thing is evidence. The public deserves updates, but the family deserves truth. Investigators need videos, photos, eyewitness statements, phone data, boat timelines, autopsy results, and every detail from every person who interacted with Nolan that day. If this was a tragic accident, the evidence should show that. If there was negligence, the evidence should show that. If there was foul play, the evidence should show that too. But the answer cannot be rushed just to calm people down. Nolan Xavier Wells will be remembered as more than a headline. He was a son, a student athlete, a young man with a future, and someone deeply loved. His death has left behind grief, anger, fear, and questions that cannot be brushed aside. To Nolan's family, we send prayers and condolences. To anyone who was on Horn Island on July 4th, if you saw something, recorded something, heard something, or even think you remember something small, contact the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, because sometimes one small detail is what brings a grieving family closer to the truth. So today's question is not just what happened to Nolan Wells. The question is whether every person who knows something will be honest enough to say it. The question is whether this investigation will be handled with urgency and transparency. And the question is whether Nolan's family will get the answers they deserve. Rest in peace, Nolan Xavier Wells. Your story matters, your life mattered, and the world is watching. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more stories and in-depth cases like this, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload.